All right, so everything seems to be working, mic, video, and whatnot. Let's go ahead and get this started. Jazz, what are you speaking of specifically? The first thing I'm working on is a bug which seems to relate to spawn position of scene objects. It might be related to instantiated objects too. I'm not sure yet. It might not even be a bug. I'm not done troubleshooting yet or testing it out, but we'll see. So I'm going to hit play here on the server, and I'm told to reproduce, you just have to have a network object that is a child of a root object. It does not need to be networked, but it can be, and that the offset is wrong for the child object. So let me try that real quick and then start client here, spawn, connect. All right, so that's at the correct offset, and that is at the correct offset. So I wasn't able to reproduce it that way, but I was able to take this here and move the object. So if I were to move it to, say, -10, and then connect the client, it is putting at -15, -5, -5, which is obviously not right. It doesn't have a network transform on it, although that shouldn't change anything because the spawn message still sends the current position even if there's no network transform. But I'm going to add one just in case. So let me go ahead and do that. Move it over again to -10. Reload the scene. And it's still wrong. So something's going on there for sure. Now I added some debug. It's saying that it's writing it as world coordinates, which is correct because this is not networked. So as far as it knows, this is a world object. It doesn't recognize this parent. This is intentional. You can basically put things under a non-network root object or organize or whatever, and it just writes them in world space. All right, so let me just make sure that changes to, say, nested or child whenever I do. All right, that might be another bug too. I don't know if you noticed that even though the server is connected, it shows it's not spawning. That is because scene ID is not being set. It should be set whenever you add the object. So we did change how scene IDs were calculated before, and it might just not be auto applying. So I'll have to fix that too. That's pretty minor though. Rebuilding the scene IDs fix that. All right, so let's move it over again to -10. Both of them have network objects on them. Connecting the client. Yeah, and it's still off. It did write it as a child though, and the parent is correct. Let me move the parent to 10 and then connect the client again. Yeah, the parent's at the right spot. Child is at the right spot, but I didn't move it yet. And it does have a network transform, so it should synchronize. Yeah, so it's still applying the offset even when there is a network object on the root. So it seems to be only related to nested/child objects. So let me go ahead and resolve that. Remove this. Reading chat real quick. Oh, so you're talking about the get instance and register instance slash unregister instance with the network manager. It basically just lets you register components with that network manager so that you can access them easily. Like, for example, if you have like a chat manager or something, you can when it instantiates your chat manager, you could say, hey, network manager, register this component. And if you want to get that chat manager, you could just say from whatever script, you can say network manager get this component. So it's kind of like a singleton, but it's not a singleton. It's using what's a fancy term is dependency or direct injection or whatever. That's kind of a term it's a bit excessive in explaining, but basically it just makes a singleton not a singleton. So it's still instance based, so you're not going to have issues that go along with statics. We know it's writing it as a world object. So if I go over to where the packet is read, not in this stuff. This is my Delta stuff, which is new and is doing fantastic, but not what I'm working on right now. None of this. Okay. So I need to go to the read part of it, and someone posted a Git issue. Gonna help, I'm sure. Let me find that bit of code they referenced. There we go. It is very useful, and I use it all the time in my stuff. Because whenever you use statics, you have to also have every method you want to be static as static in the class, or every method you want in general, I guess, has to be static. Plus, statics don't refresh properly if you have reload domain off in Unity, so it alleviates that issue, and there's a bunch of other perks to it as well. All right, so let's see if it's setting this one or this one. Setting world for what is it? knob.networkObjects.name. Otherwise, we're going to do setting nested. Oh, is this backwards? I got it backwards. Sorry. Setting nested. Setting world. Okay, let's try that. So this is going to tell us if it's applying the parameters correctly or not. Okay, so it says it's setting world, which is correct because it's writing the world. So maybe it's just writing the wrong values, which is very much possible. So let's see. If nested or has parent right. I clearly have it commented here as something to do that I just completely forget to finish this up. Yeah, it's getting the local position here. What is this true? Why are you taking forever? Pool as server. I hate that. I recently switched over to Rider, and the time it takes for the tooltip to show up when I highlight over things is very excessively long. Like it seems way quicker in Visual Studio. So maybe there's a setting for that. I imagine there is. But yeah. Alright, so if it's a scene object or nested, then it gets it from the serialized values. Maybe that's the issue. Getting from serialized values, it's probably not actually doing this because it doesn't think it's nested. And if this is the case, then it's getting from... Oh, sorry, that's if a scene object as well. That's gotta be it. It's gotta be this, and it's serializing the local properties, even though it shouldn't be, because it's not under another network object. That's probably what it is. I think this is gonna be a pretty easy fix. We got a ton of bug reports out. I mean, not a ton, but enough that makes me uncomfortable. So I have quite a few bug reports here that need to be resolved. Mostly these ones up. These have priority. So I guess it's only maybe 8, but I have to sort and see which ones are actually legitimate, because not every bug report is actually a bug. All right, so it said it is getting from serialized values. So that's as I expected, which means these serialized values are probably wrong. Okay. So here we go. This is where I need to, this is where the bug is right here. So it's serializing the local space when it should be serializing the world space because there's no parent. And it should recognize the parent. Like the parent should be set. Yeah, so this is done after set is nested through traversal. So this should be okay if I just check here if the parent exists or not. So bool nested equals what is this network object? Parent network behavior doesn't equal null. I wonder if I just have like an is nested thing. Ah, of course I do. I don't really need the other one. Oh, is this only set at runtime though? Might only be set at runtime. Let me check. Oh nope, this is also set in the editor. True if this object is this value is automatically applied for prefabs and scene objects during serial. If only I read my own freaking comments. It is nice though that I have that there. It helps out. I mean, obviously I can check via the code, but okay. So if nested, or sorry, is nested, then we're gonna go ahead and serialize the. Oh, come on, dude. I've been trying to find the feature to turn off where it adds the closing bracket automatically because that drives me nuts. So if nested, we're going to use the local space. Otherwise, we're going to use the world space. We do need to... I mean, I probably should convert to scale, but... I might just scale it transform relative to the game object. There we go. All right, let's try that out. I believe that will fix it. I put that at -10. Just for the fun of it, I'll put this at 6. Go ahead and I don't have to rebuild this one because the server's sending the wrong information. All right, so -10. Still wrong. Why are you wrong? Oh, I wonder if it's because... Let me check something. I probably didn't rebuild it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant to respond to the other person asking about help. Yeah, we do have a Discord, which is where we provide most of our help. We don't really do emails. That would take forever, unfortunately. I mean, I don't have time to respond to every email. It would basically take up my entire day if I were able to do that. Okay, so I just realized another thing is I'm moving it at runtime, and the serialization is happening at editor, so it's not recognizing the change. But having a network transform, it should be updating to the correct position. So that's probably another completely unrelated bug that I need to look at. So let me just do this real quick. So this is taking in the original serialized values, and then it's checking again the local ones of it. So I need to do if is nested. So I need to do another check here, I guess. Put this up top. Else, I need to compare the world values instead. So if position, rotation, and lossy scale. Okay. Maybe that will fix it. It makes sense why this wasn't working. It's because it was still comparing a difference in a local space, but it should have been using world space. Okay, so change that to 6. Change that to -10 just to move it out of the way. Oh my god, it's still wrong. Okay. World getting values from serialized values, -10. 6, that one's not networked, so that's expected, and that's wrong still. Pretty sure it's writing the wrong values, but let me just double check that. Oh, it's still writing the local position. Okay. I think I need to rework this code a little bit to be less of these checks, but that's something I'm going to do right now because there's other stuff that has priority. The idea is, and I can honestly get rid of a lot of that code, which is you're seeing now. That's a bit. I don't want to say it's complex. It's not that difficult, but it definitely adds a bit of overhead. But I get rid of a lot of that just by serializing the transform data as is instead of trying to serialize it and try to serialize it onto the object and then only put through the differences. The thing is though, if I only put through the differences, it only sends data if the position and whatnot change. Whereas if I don't, it's going to send the full position and whatnot to begin with. All right, so it looked like it worked that time. That's still going to be 5. That's normal. It's not networked. -9. Oh, you're killing me, man. Well, that's actually right. No, is it? I'm pretty sure that's right. Let me move it up. Yeah, so that's right because whenever you take off the parent, it's actually the correct value. So that seems to have resolved that bug. Um, I might just get rid of that code in general because it can kind of a pain in the butt. And now that we have better serializers, I think we can just send the current values and compress it really well to the point that it doesn't really matter a whole lot. But that is fixed. So let me just push that over. Bring this on over here. All right, let's see. I gotta take out the debug too, though. This one I can just discard. Debug in there I have to get rid of. Okay. So that's resolved. Let's go ahead and just back these up and say fixed spawning offset. Fixed nested network object. Another thing I could do also is make it so the network transform always sends the current position. Well, honestly, if I did that, I was gonna say if I could just make so the network transform always sends the current state or position rotation, whatnot, whenever it's added to a component when it's spawned. But that's literally no different than just sending the spawn anyway. You know, sending it in the spawn. Fixed nested network objects spawning at the wrong coordinates for clients. This was issue number 738. Let me just mark this as resolved on my end here. Bug resolved pending release. Okay. Again, that was 738 and then commit. So the other thing is that whenever I'd add an object, it was not. I'm pretty sure it's serializing the value, but let me check something real quick before I get ahead of myself here. Apparently this isn't used. Yeah, a lot of this is stuff that's not used anymore because it was refactored. This is a static. Okay. Although I think this is actually called from the rebuild scene IDs. So I wonder if that's why it's simply not being set. bet that's what it is. Because I don't think it's being set at on validate like it should be. Let's just add an empty object, add network object. Oh, it did set it. Oh my god, why? Why is it? Okay then. Let me just do create 3D object, cube, network object. I wonder if I just didn't hit save, because there it's not. If I save, okay, so it didn't actually do it that time. I wonder if I move it though, or if I, no. All right, so that is not setting it. We should be seeing a message right there where it sets it, but it's not. That I need to look at real quick. Let's see, that is going to be under probably here. We're gonna do some debug here. Game object.name. I'm just gonna find out where it's getting hung up first. Let's see. This is honestly the best way to find out where things are getting hung up sometimes, instead of like actually staring at code and adding breakpoints and whatnot. It's often a lot easier to just do that. Also, now you're working. And now you're working, of course you are. Let's get rid of that. Clear. Add a new object. Add a new network object. So it looks like it's getting hung up on C. Okay. So last scene ID. So this is where it is sticking at. It was definitely not less than 250 milliseconds since the last build. So let's check this out. Real time is currently real time. Last rebit. I wonder if it's static and it's remembering it, like it's not clearing it. I bet it is. Actually, that might make sense, because if it is a static, it's not going to rebuild it until you actually modify scripts. Okay. I have a feeling that's what. All right. Oh, it's making it. It is rebuilding it. Not entirely sure what the cause. Like, that's got to be the cause. Killing me, dude. Let me just make it recompile here. Why did that print? There is no game object A. Whatever it is, okay. Okay. So that worked. Now it's actually getting stuck. So it is something to do with the last rebuild sticking. And it is a static. So that's what it is. Forgot how you clear it out whenever Unity exits. Don't need these anymore if they're not used. The new building approach is definitely way better. It's actually refresh properly. Is there a callback for when the editor enters play mode? I don't think there is. I don't think this is going to call. Let's just see what happens if that actually calls whenever. Oh, it does. All right. So that should fix it. So if I hit play, it's going to work because it's serialized. I'm going to add a new object, add a network object. I'm going to print a bunch of stuff. It's serialized properly because I can see it spawned. And now if I add another object, yeah, that fixed it. Awesome. All right, so that bug is fixed. No one had reported that bug. I just kind of noticed it. Okay, that's resolved. And go ahead and push that up. Scene ID generation fixed. Scene ID is not generating until after script compile or using regenerate scene ID menu. All right. I have something to read real quick in my enterprise support channel, so give me a moment. Let's see. Okay, one of them was a request to an enhancement, which I am going to add in right now. That was this one. A pretty minor change, and also it does make sense to have it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in real quick. So ticks to local tick is perhaps two of those need to be updated, but let's go over to it. Ticks to local tick. What? Tick to local tick. Okay. Basically, what this is about is saying that if there would be an overflow, so if the local tick would be larger than the current value, then it's just set to the current value. This is trying to convert a server tick to a local tick, and it's returning 0, which is basically if it failed, or it's returning local tick if well, no, this is saying, sorry, this is saying if there is no difference, then just return the current local tick. Otherwise, it's saying return 0 if the difference would result, I assume, if it would result in a higher local tick. Let me go back here and see what we wrote on the notes. Yeah, so that's basically what they said when passing in future ticks. Create or add. I'm actually going to go ahead and let them know that I am streaming this if they are interested. Okay, so go ahead and mention them. Your guys aren't going to see this because it's in a private chat with the enterprise supporters, but okay. So I get what they're saying, and I agree. It doesn't really make sense with how it is currently. All right, so we're going to get the difference between tick and local tick. So let's say if current tick is 50 and well, we'll capitalize this to make it more clear, and the one passed in is 51. The difference would be -1 because 50 minus 51 equals -1. Let me just check something real quick. 50 minus 51. So even though I know the math, I always check on a calculator just because, in case you never know. Double check your work. So if tick is, let's say tick 50 and then the tick passed in is 49, so that would be, of course, 1. So 50 minus 49 equals 1. All right. So basically saying if the tick is not a future tick, yeah, so this should be a pretty easy fix. All I have to do is perhaps invert them. I am looking at question in chat real quick in the YouTube chat. I'm not. Okay, so I don't know 100% on that. I ran into that issue too about the cameras and having 2 render cameras. I think they added support for it, or I thought they added support for it at some point. But I guess at the time when Rust came out, there probably wasn't support for it. I don't know. The short answer is I don't know. I haven't had to deal with that situation in a while. That is a great question, and if you find the answer, I would like to really know because I'm also curious. I remember hitting that same wall when I was working on something, and I was like, "This is so frustrating. Why would they make a new feature worse than the old feature?" Good question, but I don't actually have the answer to that one. Okay, so we're gonna do uint. Actually, no. Also, I do just minus the position. All right. So if local tick were, say, 100, and I did minus -1, where's that? There we go. That should be 101, and that would be correct. So let's just check and make sure if that's backwards works the other way as well. So if local tick was 100 and the value was 1, that'd be 99. So that should be right. If I were to just literally remove that line. Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. Like, I am super curious about that as well. I mean, I haven't had that. The last time I touched on that was like 3 years ago. That specific topic, and I ran into that same problem. So I am very curious as to what you find out. If you find out, hopefully you find out, of course. I just want to make sure it's not possible to have like an overflow here, because that obviously would be really bad. So let's say if they pass in a tick of, let's just say 4, I mean, UINT goes up to what, 4 billion? We'll say the current tick is just at like 10 minus 4,000. That would be, yeah, so this actually could be an overflow in that sense. That would be the value of negative 3,000 or something. So if local tick was that and we did that, oops, I forgot to, sorry. Forgot to make it, oh, it did make it negative. Oh, because it's adding on to it. Yeah, that's right. So that's actually right. I should be doing it the other way. So if, let's say the tick they passed in was 10, and the actual tick was 4,000. Sorry, no, the actual tick was 4,000, and they passed in 10, and that was the difference. But then you subtracted that from the local tick of 100. That's when you have an issue. So this is right. The only thing I had to do was just take out that one stupid line that didn't let it go positive. That was it. Okay. So let's go look at the other one they mentioned. That one was local tick to tick. Which this one's not used internally, but they're using it. So it's probably going to work exactly the same. I just need to make sure. So let's say if the difference is 4,000 or 5,000 local tick minus a local tick of 10, that's the difference of this. So if I were to apply that to tick, the tick is going to be higher than the local tick. It's always going to be higher than the local tick, but that returns a correct value. In the scenario that the local tick is somehow less than, it will return a negative value, but that's impossible. We're still going to add that check in there. So let's say if the local tick is 100 and they pass in a local tick of 4,000, that's going to create a negative value, which is obviously a future tick. So we're going to take the current tick of 300 minus the future tick, and that would put it, oh, did I, let me see something. Say if the tick is again 300 minus that. Yeah, that's right. So that's going to make it a proper future tick. So I think I just need to do this again. I think that'd do the trick. So that is literally the same thing I did above. Just double checking my work, triple checking it. Always, especially when it's I mean, unless like math, you're really good at math, which I'm okay at math, like multiplication, division, addition, basic stuff like that, I can run through my head pretty quick. But when I'm doing it, but that's also like everyday stuff. It's like, oh, if I'm paying with a 20 or whatever, and my total so and so, I know I'm gonna get this in change. That's a lot different than where you're dealing with negatives and unexpected uses and things like that. So it's always good to double check everything. Again, local tick, if local tick is 100 and they're trying to get a future local tick of say 500, that's going to result in negative clear. 100 minus 500, that's going to result in negative 400 as the difference. And then if I were to take the current tick, which if local tick's 100, we'll just say is 110 minus, forgot to add the minus 10 minus that, it's going to be a positive result, which is correct because this is supposed to be, we did a test as if it were in the future. Now if it were in the past, we'll say if local tick is currently 500 and the local tick they're subtracting is 100, that's going to be a difference of 400 in the past. So if tick is 600 minus 400, that's going to be 200. That's correct as well. Now the only thing is where this is a gotcha is if like the tick were say, let's say local tick was 500 and they try to get 200, and the actual tick, the synchronized tick was showing, let's say 100, and we subtracted a difference, you would get a negative value. This is not possible. Tick is always going to be ahead of the client local tick because it's a server, ahead of or equal to. So if your client host, it's going to be equal to, but still should probably have that in there just in case. So that's resolved. So let me go ahead and mark that as resolved. This is, and it was never an overflow. They labeled it as an overflow. It was more of a limitation, if anything. Like it was handled. It wasn't possible to overflow, but it could have been handled in a different way to make it, perform more desired results. Okay, so resolved pending release. Let me just can now methods can now show let me just say can now return future ticks in 4.3. We'll actually we'll bump the version up to 4.4 because we're adding in some new fancy stuff. 4.4.0. Something real quick. Yeah, okay. So we're just gonna bump the version, comment, and make sure. Okay, great. This is not a bug from Fishnet. I'm gonna close this out. I'm going to reply and then close it out because this is not a bug for Fishnet. This is a Unity bug. So, you guys can't see what I'm typing because I'm typing it on my other screen, so I'll read it aloud. This is a Unity bug. Let me look through it. Yeah. Related to corrupted caching, often clearing temp files, and your Unity library will resolve the issue. The exact cause of the issue is unknown. So if this does not work, please let us know on our Discord so we can figure out. Okay, let me set the labels to Unity bug, Unity or asset bug, and then close with comment, and it's gone. Well, it's not gone, but it's closed. All right, so that one's out of there. What else we got? This is, I think they replied to this. They did. Give me 1 second. Let me just check chats. Okay. So they're saying they're having stuttering issues. It's because they're using state forwarding and they're also using network transform synchronized position. So state forwarding has its own smoothing built in for the prediction system. It works quite a bit different than a network transform because it accommodates corrections and things like that. But whenever you combine enable state forwarding and you're smoothing the graphical object by setting it here, this is going to be fighting with the network transform. And that's what I told them here. And they responded. It does fix the issue for the proxy players, but we did intend to use it. I don't see where it could have movement logic written following example. I updated screenshots. Okay. I don't think this is an issue still, but non-locally owned proxy players or something. I don't think this is a bug. So I'm gonna close this out. They're an enterprise supporter. I'm actually working with them right now on this. Doesn't seem like a bug, but this would definitely qualify as something to help them out. So let me just close it out real quick. I do not. Okay, after examining, let's see, re-examining your feedback and content provided here, this does not seem like it is a bug. At least that is my initial impressions. I'm going to close this out and troubleshoot this with you on Discord. Close. Okay, let's go back to the issues. All right, Fishnet Pro assets build due to missing. This is, yeah, they never replied to this, but I know this is when they imported netcode for game object. So this is another one I'm just going to close out. That's what I mean why I'm saying if they're actually bugs, because a lot of times we get bug reports that are not bugs, which is fine. It doesn't take that long to actually close it out. And some of these are like really confusing issues that people get, you know, they're not really clear as to what's causing them. So, you know. All right, so this is a new one they created in regards to it. All right, so let's take a look. Since upgrading, etc., NPC controlled by the server lost their interpolation out of movement is visibly updated on pick, where they move smoothly. Okay. Create a basic scene where the network manager has the same settings. Add network object. Create a simple scene or simple script that moves the objects linearly. Client. On playing this test scene with client and host / server, it's on host it's moving correctly while on the client it's stuttering. Okay. So let's see what we got here. All looks fine. Let's see, network object. They're not using state forwarding. They do have a network transform set up. That's kind of interesting. Maybe the prediction system is moving it for the graphical object locally and then it's forwarding it. That makes sense too. So let's see. This is client authoritative, but that should not matter because if the server owns it, it's basically nulling that fact. And it should be working. So this indeed might be a bug. I have to look at this one here. Let me just go back to my issues on my other browser. Click it up here and mark this as acknowledged maybe bug. And then respond, reviewing this comment. All right, so I'm going to test this up. I'm going to set this up in a test environment real quick and see if I can replicate it. They didn't say, they didn't show the script they're using, which could have I think these are old messages. Yeah, which could have been helpful because then I could have just pasted that on an object, but that's fine. It's not really a big deal. Network smoother test. Let's see. Moving object. Enable prediction type, other, no state forwarding, add a network transform. This is kind of like a general. Oh, you know what? No, I actually need to preserve this scene. I need to preserve the scene because I'm still working on something in regards to that too, making it a little bit better. Okay. Prediction. This is such a long name. It's okay though. I do this on purpose because I don't want the scripts going up in other things, like when I'm doing other tests and stuff, because I don't have each one in their own little assembly. They're all in their same test assembly. I mean, I kind of feel honored in a way to be on your kitchen television. I try to do that. Like I've tried to just like stream educational stuff in the background while I do other things, but I can't. Like my brain just cannot process it both at once. It's because I have like a very bad ADHD, so like I just can't really jump between two different things or focus on them at once. It's just not possible. All right, so I'm gonna do public float move rate. Just do 5F. Public float range equals 7F. These are going to be how far it moves left and right, and this is going to be how quickly it's going to move. All right, so I need to add in. Sorry, give me 1 second. I need to add in prediction stuff. I don't have any of my in that one. Okay, so guides, prediction version 2, creating code, non-control object. All right, so let me just take this. Not actually a rigid body, but I can just take this code and tear it down. All right. So, let's see. We got here. The UN is, yeah. Is this still an issue in Unity 2021? Yes, it is. Thanks, Unity. In later C# versions, you can create structure constructors without parameters, but you cannot, for whatever reason, in the one Unity 2021 uses. So I don't need this, but I do need a position. And I'm just going to change this real quick. Basically updating the reconcile to have the position instead of the predicted rigid body, because this is using a basic object. Get rid of this, that's not used. I don't need this anymore actually, because I can, something new I added in right there. Wait, are you telling me that, okay, so I need to actually update the guide. Because in the guide I'm registering to these events here, but like if I look at it, but oh, it is only used in a regular network behavior. Okay, so this one I updated to use the tick network behavior, which has these built in. Let me just go ahead and update that real quick. So I'm going to this, and I'm going to add on this, and I only need tick. If you use the tick network behavior, make sure on the network behavior you set the callbacks you want to use. Now, if you tick all of these, for example, it's going to have to subscribe to all of these events, and it is going to add a little bit of extra overhead. So only subscribe to the ones you're, or only set it to the ones you're using. Because even if you, let's say if you set it to tick and you try to override post tick, you can override it, but it's not going to call it. So make sure you set that up right. There should be a guide on that. Maybe not. I'll have to add that to our guides because it is relatively new. Okay, time manager on tick. All right, so you don't need to call base. Run inputs default. Actually, this code is fine. I'm just gonna take this, paste it here. All right, so this doesn't have any thing that really runs off from inputs. It just takes preset values. Private, actually, I'm just going to assume the center point is 0. Float center point equals 0. This is going to make sense a little bit. I also need actually it's easier if I do this. This makes it move to positive values. You'll see here in a second. So let's see. Transform dot position plus equals new vector 3, and is going to be move rate. Float tick delta equals base.time manager tick delta. So I'm going to pass in the move rate times the tick delta. You don't do this with physics, by the way. You never pass in the tick delta with physics. That's a Unity thing. Instead of tick delta, it's actually time delta or fixed delta if you're using like Unity physics. But we follow the same concept just to keep things, in line. So if you're using physics, you don't pass in the delta. But when you're not using physics, you do. And again, Unity, not me. This is how they set it up. So, don't shoot the messenger. So times tick delta times direction. And I'm going to add 0f to the y and z. Float goal equals new vector 3. Let's see, what did I say? Max range 0f, 0f. Why are you... Oh, duh. It took way too long for me to hover over that little squiggly error and for that tooltip to pop up. Like, I don't got time for that. It needs to be like 10 times quicker. It needs to be instant. Okay. So if transform that position is .x is, you know what, actually I'm going to do float x goal equals range times direction. Yeah, I need to do this a little bit different. If direction is greater than 0f, if transform that position x is greater than range, then we're going to invert it. Direction times equal -1. This is not like how I would typically code this, but just for the test, so whatever. So this is just going to invert the direction. We need to go over here. I do need to add to the reconcile. I need to add a public float direction. And in this, I just need to do transform that position equals, I don't even, anyway, sorry, just thinking out loud here. Move direction equals data dot direction. I don't even think you have. I only work with state forwarding at the moment, which means this stuff isn't even going to run on the other clients because state forwarding is unchecked. It's fine. In other words, I just did all of this reconcile stuff for no reason because the network transform is going to be handling the smoothing. Control K on mine aligns things. So like if it's like way over here and I do Control K, it'll put it to where the proper indentation is. That's what it does on mine. It also formats the code. So like if I have public void XYZ or XYS because I typoed that, and then I do Control K, my settings aren't to inline that because it's an empty method. So that's what it does on mine. All right, so moving object, don't want that anymore. We want that on there. We need the network transform. Has prediction enabled. Graphical object is set here. No state forwarding, so we're going to set the network transform. You don't have to actually do this. This just configures it for you automatically, but you don't have to do it. Everything's the same as they have it. So if I were to check a few things. Okay, start it up. Oh, my code is broken. I forgot to add the negative range. Less than negative range. All right, so that's working. I don't need a client. Well, they said it was tested with a client host, so I'm going to go ahead and keep the client host on there. And now I'm going to run this one and see what happens. By the way, how long did this take to set up? I look at the stream real quick. This took, I think, about 15 or so minutes to set up the test environment and just to get it going. And I don't necessarily know that this was 100% to their environment. Now, again, they are an enterprise supporter, so we are going to go above and beyond for them. But this is why a lot of times I say, okay, we want you to create a project that can replicate it, because things can get very time consuming. It seems to be working to me. Okay, I do see the jittery there. It looks like it. Why is it smooth on the? I'm gonna lower the tick rate. So let's go to time manager. Oh, it already is at 15, so it's definitely smooth. Otherwise, it'd be jumping way more than that. All right, so I can see that it is being crap. It looks like this is that shouldn't be happening. You see how it's going forward and bouncing back? That shouldn't be happening because state forwarding is not enabled, which means it shouldn't be. Double check. Yeah, it's not enabled, so it shouldn't be running the replicate stuff, which I don't think it is. I'm gonna check real quick though. Control K. Oh, you said Control K. Oh, I didn't see the O part of it in the chat. I'm sorry. It doesn't seem to be. Oh, so it shows it at the bottom, or maybe that's just. So when I click it, it shows it. Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be a setting somewhere though. So this should not be running, but I'm just gonna. Center point was never used. Oh, it is running. That's wrong. So yeah, so that just seems like what is that supposed to do? Because I'm not trying to. This is what I'm doing. What you say. So I move it over it. I press Control and hold. Sorry, I press Control and K. I'm still holding Control and oops, that's not what I was going for. I click it. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's supposed to do. It's not doing it for me though. Whatever is supposed to happen to you, it isn't doing it for me. I was mostly complaining because the tooltips take forever to come up. Like for example, if I go here and then I click here. Okay, it's not like right now. It's not even showing me the constructor. Now it is. It just sometimes it takes like really long, like excessively long. So the replicate is running. The reconcile is not. The replicate should not be running. Actually, no. The replicate should absolutely not be running. this over. Yeah, mine's not doing that. Like, what is that supposed to do? Like, not hold all of them, but you have it clicked on, and then do Control K. I assume you mean Control plus K, and then press O while still holding Control afterwards. Either way, I'm just trying to get like the tooltip to pop up quicker. Okay, replicate non-authoritative. Alright, so if owner or ownerless and server return, because that would be authoritative run. So we're going to do if not network object cache dot enable state forwarding. Return. I'll probably fix it. It's probably just that one check that was missing. Oh, it's still running it though. It should not be running it. How's it getting past that condition? Where is the previous line? Oh, I thought I chose is state forwarding. I have to change my theme because this has got me quite a few times. If you look, like I'm moving it over these, you can see it's there's like a stupid faint bar and I can't really even see it. I need to change that to something more obvious, easier to see. That has burned me quite a few times. Alright, so good news is that seemed to have fixed the replicate running when it shouldn't be, but it's still jittering. Alright, so let's see what could be going on. First, let me comment again on this. Confirm bug comment. Marking this as a priority. This should certainly not be happening. All right. So we'll see. I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to go. First, I'm going to just turn off my extrapolation just to make sure. I mean, there's no reason that should be any of the issues, but untick that just because that should not be the problem. Yes, it is normal that it jumps the first few times because the server doesn't smooth because it has no reason to smooth, but once the client connects in, it begins smoothing. So that actually makes sense. It's supposed to do that. All right. Now, what happens if I were to unset this? Like maybe it's configuring it wrong or something. Okay, so that's not the issue either. At least, it didn't seem like it. Put this back to 2. We don't need extrapolation. I'll keep that at 0. Again, this doesn't matter, but I'll keep it checked anyway. And just to one more time, absolutely confirm. You know what it is? I just realized. The network object is smooth. So network transform is not the problem. It has to be the graphical smoother still working. Let me look at this real quick. So we want the graphical smoother to work for owner because let's say if this is your object here, I'll just pull the root. Let's say this is your object and you're moving here and you're the owner, be it well, if you're a server, you're not gonna have a desync. But let's say if you are the owner, client only, and you're moving, for some reason you're moving forward and you think you can keep moving forward, and something is actually blocking you on the server, like you have a desync. The graphical object smooth that comes with the prediction system is designed to handle those desyncs and interruptions, whereas Network Transform is not, because it's not part of the prediction system. But when you're not using state forwarding, there's not really desyncs because it's just updating the transform. So the problem is, however, that the graphical object is still probably smoothing. Let me just go ahead and take a quick look here. Go up to my network object, and it's probably just gonna, I'm just gonna do a quick search. Transform graphical object. Okay, well that's code that's not used. Transform graphical object. This is going to be under the network object. These are not used internally, but they're there if you need them. Okay, so the get and set graphical object I'm referring to. So let's see. This is where it initializes. So initialization's fine. We want it to initialize because if you don't initialize, and let's say you do gain ownership and suddenly that the prediction smoother should kick in, we want it to work. So it still needs to be initialized, but it should not be updating at real time. And it should be a relatively easy fix because there's actually something for that inside the smoother. So if I go here, let me pin a couple things. Clean up my stuff here. Alright, so close all but pinned. I might be a little bit slower with this IDE because I just started using it fairly recently. So it is 500 milliseconds. What is that crap? That's insane. You're awesome. Thank you so much for finding that for me as well. So let me go to under file. It's under file, settings. You said it's under editor, code editing, editor tooltips. So editor, code editing. I do like the search option. Pretty cool. Right there. Let's do 100. Ain't nobody got time for 500 milliseconds. Oh, that's so much better. So much better. So yours was at 500 too? Have you just like never noticed it, or did it like never bother you? Like I don't like, even if I fly over it like this and it pops up, I don't care. I need it to be fast. Okay. Hey, every 500 milliseconds adds up, right? It's like compile times, you know, they add up, they really do. So let's go to the can smooth option, which is here. All right. If network object dot this might be yeah, I mean, we both learned something and you helped me out as well, so thanks. It's just funny though. Okay, so can smooth will be false if prediction is enabled and you're not enabling state forwarding and you do not have authority. So there's no has authority on the network object. It's there. I mean, it's not there, but it's the logic is basically there. I just need to add it in. It's there somewhere else in the source code is what I mean. So if I go, for example, to I know where it's at too. It's under the quality of life things, likely. Yeah. There should be a remove on this. Remove version 5. There we go. Oh, I gotta go here. Oops. Then I just need to go to my where is this under? The right above the owner and right below the is owner. Okay. So I'm gonna go over to network object.quality of life and just go down to basically the same spot. Go. So it's beneath that. Just make sure I didn't do that wrong. So these both, and that one's inverted. All right, so that's right. Good. Fix it. I'm gonna add a null check in there because this could technically be used without a network object. No one's probably going to, but it could be. I mean, I might even do it internally at some point. I'm just gonna add it in there. All right. Huzzah! It's fixed. Now there is seemingly a massive delay. It is. I believe it was 2 interpolations behind, and it is a tick rate of 5. So that is 400 millisecond delay. So that looked completely normal. This is going to be a 200 millisecond delay now with the changes. Might be a little bit longer because of transmission time. Yeah, so I guess that technically was 600 before, and now it's 400. Yep, that looks right though. Sorry to bump this up to a higher tick rate. There we go. Cool. So that's resolved. So let me go ahead and check out which one that. What did I miss about CPU and Unity? You didn't miss anything per se. I was complaining about how whenever I hover over something like this, that it was taking absolutely forever for the tooltips to come up, and I'm like, I don't understand why, because my project's not big. The computer's pretty, it's decently fast. And I just switched to Rider, and I'm like, I noticed this specifically on Rider. And then Jazz here checked into it, and the default delay was 500 milliseconds, so half a second. And he thought that was just his project struggling, like Unity struggling with his project, but it was actually just IDE. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and mark this as resolved. So let's go back to here, and I think this is quite possibly is going to be the last bug I am going to do on the stream. I have to get lunch here soon and whatnot. All right, so let's see. Resolved in 4.4.0. Comment. We change the resolved pending release. Refresh. Good to go. All right. This is a bug. I mean, I have to review it, but that's probably a bug. not the utmost priority at the moment. That's an enhancement, but it needs to be done either way. Let me just change the tag on that to enhancement. Did it not add? Okay, try again. Weird, it's not refreshing it. Change order on my screen, on my other, there we go. I'll say on my other Firefox versus Chrome, it's Firefox was showing the right tags, but it wasn't on Chrome. So I'm probably going to look into this one as well. As well, this one, not on camera or screen, but I probably will look into it because they might be related, and I think it might be relatively simple to fix. This is an editor only bug. It literally just throws like a warning or something in the editor, which means it's completely harmless. It's just annoying. This is a bug, but it's super rare, and this one as well. So these all have kind of lower priority. Again, this is more of an enhancement, but yeah. So that's all of, we covered pretty much all of the major bugs. I need to mark that one as acknowledged. I'll mark that as a maybe bug because I remember talking to them about this. This method is supposed to call whenever you try to predicted spawn something, giving the server a chance to validate the spawn. And this person is saying that it's never calling. So if that's true, that's a bug. And I imagine, like, let me click it here real quick. Yeah, so they're showing that it's not affecting it, it's still spawning and all that stuff. So that sounds like that very much could be a bug. I'm gonna look at that one too before the release. The other one is this, which is an enhancement. It's that the on try spawn server is invoking before read payload. That's a problem because, well, it's not really a problem. It's definitely a limitation, I should say, because the client might write to the payload containing information that the server needs to validate before knowing if that the spawn can be predicted. So if this is calling before the read payload, you're not getting that payload information that you might want to check against. Again, this is like read and write payload's optional, but it makes total sense why that should invoke first. So that's an enhancement. I do want to get that in because it makes sense, but right now I'm working on Delta stuff and the bugs, and we'll see though. Maybe soon, because I just know it takes a little bit of a rework, but hopefully soon. Yeah. Let me see here. By the way, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Delta changes. They are fantastico. So let's say if that's probably not a real word. Like that was my pretend Italian accent, or maybe it's, I don't know. Anyway, they are good though. So since I have you on stream, I'm just gonna show you. Can check this out in open development too. But basically, the combined savings between replicate and reconcile right now is 81.85%. That means that amount is going to be used less than bandwidth. I mean, it's going to vary depending on your project, but that was a general test, and roughly 82% less bandwidth use. So that's really, really nice. It could probably also go up even more than that. Like I want to hit closer to 90%. That's my goal, is to knock out 90% of the bandwidth used by prediction. But it also works with everything. Like not right now. So let me see here. 1 second. Yeah, so this is all generated stuff. It's running deltas for this, and this works with eventual consistency. And these are all formed just by putting this attribute over the methods, and this is going to be automatic. By the way, it's going to automatically know how to do this. But right now, this attribute has to be added just while I get everything set up. So it's basically it's creating delta serializers for these two things. Back. And that in return is currently saving 82% bandwidth. But this can also apply to everything. So let me show you something that I thought was really cool. So just to give you an idea of how powerful these new serializers are going to be, obviously, currently 82% less bandwidth for prediction is amazing, but prediction was using too much bandwidth to begin with, right? So are there going to be more prediction demos / guides? There's going to be more demos. I mean, I'd like to add guides, but it's really hard to add guides and like know what people want, and I don't want to like write people's projects for them. You know what I mean? I want to add stuff that people can read and be like, okay, I know how to apply that to my project. But I don't want to write full controllers and whatnot for people. But so network transform, we got this void serialized change. And so let me just go back here. Where's change? Change. All right. So first, the network transform calls get changed, and this would be for like sends out data. So get changed basically gets the difference between the last sent data and the current data, and then it updates a change delta flag, which indicates what values have actually changed. So the network transform already uses like a property delta type deal. And then after it collects all those things, it calls serialized change, which then basically checks the flags and then writes the values based on the flags. It writes different packing levels, etc. And this is all like here. And then it's quite a bit of code. And then the deserialize basically reverses it. So this is all custom code that I wrote for the network transform, but this is what the cool part is. So let me just do this. Include serialization public structure transform data public vector 3 position public vector 3 no, sorry, that's a quaternion rotation and public vector 3 scale. All right, so with that there, it should now be generated. This is another cool thing, is it generates on the fly. You don't have to let it like compile inside Unity first. Yeah, so generated on the fly right here. So this is the new code. So let's go back to the network transform, right? You saw the get change code, which was a decent chunk of code. Is probably, I don't know, maybe I want to say like 10 or so actual lines of code. And you got this here, which, you know, that's a good amount of code too. What is this? This is 1141 down to so that's 190 90 lines of code. There are some comments in there, so we'll say 170, just whatever. 170 plus the other 10 or whatever. So we'll say 180 lines of code for the network transform, right? So if we go over to this, now this is all generated. I didn't actually write this. The generator did this. We go over here. It's actually instead, let's see, 6 to 37, so 31 lines of code. So one, it is significantly less lines of code for the Delta serializers. 2, it's automatic, a lot more simple. So I don't have to write all those custom. I'm going to be able to delete a ton of complex code like this. It's just all going to be automatic now, which is great. So that's the second perk. Well, 1, less lines. 2, automatic. 3, this has higher precision. So right now the network transform has a precision of 0.1 or 0.01, and this has a precision of 0.001, which is quite a bit better. So less lines of code, easier to use, automatically generated, higher precision, and of course the one that we really like is much, well, I do want to say much less bandwidth, because it really is a lot less bandwidth. So I ran a test of moving objects and whatnot, which were always moving on every axis, and they were rotating 33% of the time, and I believe that came to 11.2 bytes per send per object. And this count here includes like the headers and everything. So it's the RPC header, the packet header, everything. This is not just what's written, this is everything per object. Now, after all I did, I literally just commented basically out all of this custom stuff here. I commented it out, and I just did a writer.write delta transform data, or you could just pass in the transform data, and I just basically generated a transform data for the network transform, which, you know, I just basically passed in the properties, position, etc., whatnot. So this was the new line of code, and after that it knocked it down to 8.1. So that might not seem huge, but it is, because it was already delta properties with compression to begin with, and then the automatic, so like handwritten stuff, and then the automatic serializers knocked out another almost 28% bandwidth, and it's so much easier and it's more accurate. And this isn't just going to apply towards network transforms. This is going to work with everything. Right out the gate, no, it's not going to work with sync vars, RPCs, etc. I have to implement that, but I don't really have to add in much more code. Like I said, this is kind of the gist of it. I just have to call write delta instead of calling the stuff, and, you know, I have to add in a couple other things, very, very minor things, but yeah. So it's going to offer fantastic savings across the board. Like, it's going to be crazy. So sync vars, for example, sync vars only write change. So if I were to go from, we'll just say a float, let's say if I go from a float of 500.1234, that would originally be 4 bytes. So this is 4 bytes. And then if that float changes, like, I don't know, maybe it's a timer or something, I don't know. Let's say if it changes a little, or maybe it's like a position. This is going to serialize in 2 bytes. Now, realistically, it's serializing in 1 byte, but there has to be a header containing this. So let's say if you were doing a vector 3 sync var instead, or whatever it be, doesn't necessarily have to be a sync var, and all the values are, let's just say 100, 2, 3, blah blah blah. Let's just say this is what it is on all axes, right? So without compression, that's 12 bytes, and I believe it sends us 12 bytes in the sync vars and RPCs because they don't compress automatically. So if you were to just take this and just, it increases a little bit, there's going to be 1 byte written as a header. And assuming all 3 axes did change, it's only going to be like another 3 bytes. So your 12 bytes is now going to be 4 bytes. And it's just going to be so much better. But not only that, so that right there is like 66% savings. But that's not everything either. Another really cool thing that we can do with this, and I'll probably have to make this optional just so people can have it their way. Because why wouldn't I do that? Let's say you have a server RPC, private void, I don't know what I want to call it. Let's just say RPC, or let's say server send help float value, and then some logic in there. So if you call this RPC every single tick, it's going to let's say you're doing server send health. So if you're doing this every single tick, it's going to send the health value every single tick. But we could do something like this. Ignore unchanged. This is just a temporary name. This doesn't even exist yet, but it can exist very easily. So let's say if we do ignore unchanged true, and the value you're sending is 100, and then you call it next tick, and then it's also 100, we could just simply make it not send it. So it's always going to only send the latest values. This has a lot of uses. Typically speaking, you probably shouldn't be doing it like this to begin with, but it's just an option so people can have that. The first area I think this is going to be useful though is we hear a lot that people want client-side sync vars, and that's kind of been on hold for a while. But right now, how that is basically done is we'll just use a similar approach here. So this is kind of what a lot of people are doing now to make client-side sync vars, because what's happening is you are sending an RPC. Whenever you call update SV, you're basically sending an RPC, and there's an actual easier way to do it. Let me find it in the docs. Gonna save us both a lot of time if I just do this. All right, so here's the example in the document. Adding mono blah 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 and %. Yeah, I've seen it done other ways as well, but this is basically one way you could do it. And this would send every single time. So if you're using health and you wanted to update your health every single tick, rather than putting in code of something like if last health doesn't equal health, then send RPC, rather than having to do that, or then do, oh, that's annoying too. I don't know what causes that. Opening up a thing, last health equals health, and then, oh my god, I did it again. Actually, I think I do know what is causing that. It seems like when I hold shift and press return, it opens up a new window. I need to figure out how to turn that off. So this is obviously very like convoluted, and you don't want to do this. This is kind of annoying. So instead of all of this here, you could just do this and then just put the ignore unchanged on there, and then you could just call it flat like you would normally. And it would automatically know not to do it. And on top of it, it would only serialize the differences when you do actually have to send it through. So yeah, I mean, it's going to have a lot of advantages throughout the whole framework. I know that took a while to explain because I didn't have any like code in front of me to show you, but it's going to benefit the whole framework significantly. Yeah, I knocked out a good amount of bug reports, and I've hit my hour plus of streaming. I want to keep it around an hour, maybe hour and a half usually, and I'm already near 2 hours. So, this is the usual. I can never only stick to around an hour. Yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm glad we were able to get those bugs knocked out. We'll have another release out soon. I'd like to get one out today. No, probably not today. I'd like to get one out tomorrow if possible. So I don't foresee it being much longer than tomorrow if it's not up tomorrow. But yeah, hopefully we'll see the update pretty soon. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.